Hey, how's it going, everybody? So it's about 5 o'clock in the morning here, and I just finished editing on Mr. Nobody. So that will be getting released here on Friday, along with its Cold-Blooded Truth counterpart, with Jason Songer Sr. acting as Mickey Rollins. So I'm extremely excited to be able to get that out there. I faced a lot of questions and a lot of setbacks on Mr. Nobody, and I thought in lieu of me getting it done, I was gonna make a little video about some of the things that you face when you're making a film, especially your first film. This was my very first completely independent film. Other than, I got the actors together and they did an amazing job. I thought for a first project, even just for a project in general, I think all the actors and actresses did a phenomenal job. And I thought they were amazing. And it was great because as a aspiring and independent filmmaker, especially an up and coming one, you really want to surround yourself with people who have been in the industry and who have had experience with good projects and good films. And it's great to have been able to work with people who took it so seriously and who really wanted to create a good story, because that's what I was about. I wasn't about making it the scariest film. I wasn't about making it into this like you can't go to sleep at night kind of film. I wanted to make a heartfelt story that added a little bit of that nostalgic horror vibe to it, and I think we blew that out of the ballpark. I thought we did amazing with that. So like I said, I wanted to kind of share some of the things that I ran into while filming and editing, and just the whole process that went into getting this film made. And I'll bounce around a bit. I don't really have an order, I guess. So the first one that is really important that I noticed was your vision. As the writer, as the director, as whatever it is you're doing, whether you wrote it, whether you're just directing it, you have to have a vision. I can only imagine how hard it would have been if I was not the writer. If I had to portray what a writer was trying to make on a screen. Like, that would have been so much harder. And that's why I wanted to write my own scripts. That's why I wanted to do this all myself, because it is so important that you have one singular vision of what you're trying to do. And I for the most part, because it's my first time actually filming on my own and doing all the editing on my own and doing everything on my own, right? It was hard to lock on to one vision, because as you're editing and as you're going through the process, you're starting to see all these new things you could do, and you're like, oh, that'd be cool. But you gotta keep focused on what you initially set out to do. And that was really tough, because I made edits, I made re-edits, I released edits, I re-released edits, I released the re-release. It's ridiculous how many times that I gave this to my cast and I said, no, I'm doing it a different way. I did it again. So I was very indecisive when it came down to that. And I think if I could have done anything better, that would have been it. Just going back and just taking my time on it. Because there were so many times when I just tried to rush it. I rushed it. And I went through a little film festival circuit with part one. I kind of sent it to a couple film festivals, and I realized it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I didn't really want to go the film festival route. I just wanted to make this story and get it out there and be able to share it with people. And I felt like when I was trying to send it to the film festival circuit, it just felt rushed. It felt like I was trying to get it together too quick and give it to the festival to get it out there, and I didn't like that. So the good thing about me putting it on YouTube is I have my time. I have time to do it. There's no specific date you need it in by. There's nothing like that. You can just make it on your agenda and then put it out there and then start to connect with people at that time. And yeah, I don't know if you see it right back here, the poster that I got made. Well, it's not a poster. It's a wood carving or wood burning. Super cool, but sorry, I got sidetracked there. But yeah, that was my first biggest thing, was just keeping locked on to the vision, because this was always supposed to be like a classic horror feel to it. Like, it ended up being a black and white project, which I loved how that turned out. Like, I was trying to make it colored and all that, but the problem is with the color schemes and with the little lighting that we had, I just couldn't do the film justice. People would take one look at the color schemes and be like, ugh, I'm not a fan of this. And I didn't like that. With the black and white, you don't get that distraction. You're focused on the contrast, the darkness and depth to the screen, and that's about it. You know what I mean? You don't have to worry about, is it too blue? Is it too, I don't know, this color or that color? You know, you're just focused on the characters, the story, and what's being shown to you, which I loved. Another thing is the the soundtrack. That was the second thing that was kind of tough for me, because I use a website called Epidemic Sound, which is amazing, by the way. If you guys are into creating content or making films or anything like that, it's a great resource for you to have, because it has a bunch of independent artists who make and compose music, and they put it on there, and then you're able to use their music and their sounds for your projects, as long as I think it's like a $15 a month fee, which isn't really bad for unlimited amount of, I mean, it's not unlimited, it's probably like 40,000 songs and sounds, but that's for one person, that's more than enough. But just finding the right music for this project, and finding the songs that really, tried to give the emotional connection that I was trying to give during certain scenes, right? That was pretty tough too. By the end, I finally got to a point where I really liked the sound, and I really liked where it ended up going. I had points when I actually talked to composers, and they were like, hey man, we'd love to get a soundtrack for you together and make it as an original score. And I have the money to put into it. For a first project, I didn't want to do that. Only because I wanted to feel it out first. I wanted to know the overall process, and of all things, I wanted to know how to be able to connect music to my project before I go asking somebody else to make music for it, because I didn't really know what I wanted, this soundtrack to sound like, or what I wanted it to feel like. So when I went on to Epidemic Sound, you could play music, you could listen to it, and you could see how it made you feel. And whenever I got to a certain song, I would know just by listening to it how it made me feel, and I was like, all right, that's going to connect perfectly with this scene, and it's going to give you exactly the feel that I'm trying to deliver. But the thing is, like, at the beginning, I was just putting music in there. It's funny because Scott, who plays Mr. Nobody, who plays Henry Clifford, he actually told me, he said, for the first edit I sent out, he's like, yeah, it was cool, man, but he's like, I'm not a big fan of that music. And I was like, thank God he told me that. You know what I mean? Because I would have just let it, I would just rolled with it. And thank God he told me that. I got it changed, and it ended up being a million times better in my opinion. Scott, if you're watching, I hope to God it ended up meeting your standard, because he has way more experience with music and that kind of experience than I do. So that's, again, like I said, connecting with the talent that you're working with and the creatives you're working with, and being able to work with people who've been in the industry and who know how things work when you are new to it is amazing. And it completely changed my experience. It made it so much better. And then I think the other thing that was kind of a hardship while I was going through this was coordination. Now, coordination, the toughest part about that was finding the time, because I was in Camp Pendleton, California. That's where I was full-time, because I'm like I said, active duty Marine. I was stationed in Camp Pendleton, so I had to drive. Alex, Patricia, and Kamal all lived in the same location, and then Scott, he only lived like a block away, but they were all in downtown Los Angeles, and that's about depending on the day and the traffic, it could be 45, well, not 45 minutes, probably an hour. And it could range anywhere up to 2 hours, depending on, on how you drive and what the traffic's like. And if anybody knows California, the traffic is not in your favor. So, especially with the amount of car crashes that are out there. So it was about a 2-hour drive every time I went there. And we had to find a time when everybody was available at the same time for about 8 hours. I always stay around 8 hours. I never go over 8 hours. So whatever filming I can get in that 8 hours, that's crucial. And we do it pretty fast. So the amount of content we're able to get together and videos and everything in just 8-hour gap is amazing. I mean, I've had a lot of actors tell me, wow, that's quick, and it does sacrifice a little bit of quality, not much. The biggest quality I think it sacrifices is and I'll get into this next. This will be the next thing that I should have put first, which is autofocus. But I'll get into that because that was my biggest enemy and continues to be my biggest enemy in almost every single project I'm in. But yeah, coordination. So getting everybody in the same place at the same time, making sure that they're available for the whole period. And that's probably one of the biggest things, because, you know, one actor will have this one day, one actress will be, you know, unavailable on this day, and then you'll have certain plans this day, so you got to find a time. And I only had the weekends, because I'm not going to make a 2-hour drive at 5 o'clock right after work and then be there until 3 in the morning. I'm just not, because, you know, that's just not efficient use of time, and they're going to be exhausted, and the quality is just not going to be there. So we typically shot on either a Saturday or a Sunday. I think we might have shot on one Sunday. Was it this project? No, it might have been. I think we were all Saturdays for this one. I think Hopper was the one where we did a Sunday. But yeah, so anyway, that's one of the biggest things, is just making sure everybody can get together at the same time. They have the same amount of time to be together to be able to get the filming in and get the scenes that you're trying to get down filmed. And next, autofocus. So being a first-time filmmaker, never using a camera a day in my life, I got a Sony a7 III, which, by the way, is an amazing camera. Amazing camera. I absolutely love it. I paid, I'll get into that later. But yeah, a Sony a7 III, great camera. The problem, and I think it's the lighting, I'm pretty sure it's the lighting. Like I said, I'm no camera guru, so if anybody's watching this and they know, please give me some advice on it, because I am still new to it and I continue to face it. I have a hard time transferring from one part of this, like one character to another, and keeping the autofocus there. Like you can probably see at a couple points in the film where, you know, the blurriness kind of kicks in randomly and then it goes away. I'm assuming it's because the screen was too dark, or because, you know, just the environment was too dark and the transition from light to dark wasn't well paced, so it was just a quick transition and the camera blurred or something. I don't know. I don't know what it was. Otherwise I would stop doing it, but I have not been able to figure that out yet. So that was a huge thing that kind of, I don't think it took away from the film at all. I think there was probably a couple points where you're like, wow, this like autofocus is kind of out of tune. But it wasn't bad, you know? I mean, the film still turned out amazing, I thought. And it's a recurring problem. I faced it in that. I faced it in Hopper. Thankfully in Dolly, I didn't have a lot of like excessive movement. It was mostly, you know, isolated videos and scenes, so I didn't have to worry too much about heavy transitions or big light differences. It was mostly the same across the set. So but yeah, that was another thing. And I'm, you know, there's small things you're gonna run into, like an actor is late or an actress is late. The biggest thing about this is you're here to make something with other creative minds. So go easy on them, they'll go easy on you, because you're not perfect, they're not perfect, nobody's perfect, right? Nobody in the world is perfect. When you go into this knowing that, and knowing that you're all there to make something and make it great, that's when you can really start to understand that, you know, don't take it so seriously. You're here to have fun, right? That's why I always looked at it that way. I've worked with people who just took it too seriously, and it's about what you want. There's a difference between wanting to make something, a creative project, and really make it fun and from the heart and worthwhile, and then there's a difference in doing that or just trying to get something that's going to give you a paycheck or is going to get you recognition, right? I'm not been in the industry very long. I've only been in for probably about a year of filmmaking and creating my own projects. But just from that time, I can tell you that I would much rather do low budget filmmaking where I can create a cool story with great characters and a great cast and have a good time and make it look pretty good, as opposed to doing a big budget production and having to worry about making it a good payout, like just getting paid for a good quality or getting more recognition just because of that. I'm doing it because of the project itself and what it's going to give me, what it's going to give the actors and the cast and crew, and what it's going to give the project in general when it's finished. So like this project, I can't just go into it and say, here it is, here's the film, watch it and like it or don't like it, I don't care. I can't say that. But I can give you the project, and I can say, okay, here's the film, here's the story, here's all the fun we had while we were doing it, and here's all the things I learned while I was doing it. And that's more important to me than just filming and then putting it out there. So these are just the things that I kind of ran into that are the things that kind of to be cautious about, especially as a first-time filmmaker. I didn't really, like I said, there's gonna be small things you run into. Just be flexible, be understanding, especially as a filmmaker. You can't expect everything to go exactly your way. I think the biggest thing is just dealing with the obstacles that pop up and using them to your advantage. Like there were times when lighting wasn't perfect and we had to just make it work. And a lot of the things can be done in the editing process. Like the lighting can be adjusted. You can change things up to make it work in your favor. Like don't stress it, because once you start editing, if you can really master that, and I'm not saying I mastered it by any means, I am still very much learning, but from what I have learned so far is you can manage most of that in the editing process. You don't have to worry about just losing the quality. You can maintain the quality while you're going through it after your post-production period. So don't stress, right? Don't freak out. It is possible to make a great film on a very low budget, right? This film was $300, and that was mostly from costume pieces and gas. That's it. Like that's literally, and maybe like the money that was afforded to get the music together, or the editing software, which I used Adobe Premiere Pro on this one. My first edit that I released was Sony Vegas Pro, which I'll get into a whole nother thing about that. I loved Sony Vegas Pro. I loved it. The computer I had kind of shit the bed, so I ended up having to get another computer, which is a MacBook, and Sony doesn't work on that. So I had to get Adobe Premiere Pro. So but yeah, those are the things that I found that, if I were starting out, I would like to know, and that might have helped me going into it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. What are some things, if you're independent filmmakers or have worked on a set like that, a low budget set, what are some of the obstacles you ran into or some of the lessons you've learned? The more that I can learn, the better. I mean, I appreciate every bit of advice you guys give me. That's why I did this. Hopefully somebody who started in my position can get this advice and maybe use it. I don't know. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll actually be posting a couple more videos about some of the things I ran into while I was filming Mr. Nobody, editing Mr. Nobody, and just the whole process altogether. So keep an eye out for those. And as always, I will see you in the next video.